Plenty of questions I've got to say in my mind. Firstly, let's have some numbers. I understand from your research, 70 to 80% of urban poor children in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia go to private school. Exactly. 70 to 80%.
Yeah.
And it's also estimated that there's 450,000 of these schools in India and 14,000 in Lagos and Nigeria.
Yeah, Lagos State alone.
Lagos State alone. Yeah, sorry. In other words, they're everywhere. I guess the answer to the question is why are parents choosing them? It's because they get better outcomes.
Yes.
But how does an entrepreneur in these really poor areas make this work from an economic point of view, James? They're poor areas. By definition, they haven't got much money. The parents, like parents everywhere, will make big sacrifices to get their kids into these schools. And then presumably those entrepreneurs actually have to be able to evidence that you bring my kid here, your kid here, I'll outperform. I'll give you a better product than you'll get in the...
So critics of this, and those sort of critics of this work would tend to be those critics of everything we've talked about earlier, in terms of our ambition for universities and so on. But critics of this sort of work say, well, parents are being hoodwinked. Okay, they think private is better, so they'll scrimp and save, and they'll be hoodwinked by unscrupulous business people. The research shows the opposite. So, and it's not just my research. Research after research shows these schools are outperforming the government schools. So, very importantly, parents are not being hoodwinked. They are making rational choices about what is best for their children. And how do they find out? Well, this is in the tried and tested ways parents find out. If you're poor, you talk to your friends, you talk to your mother, you talk to your brothers and siblings, and they will tell us what makes for good education. Now
it just comes back to this point we were talking about earlier. So often the expertocracy or the elites, whatever you want to talk about it, is so patronising that they assume that somehow or other they know best and mistake this great essential that I think I learned in all my years in public life, which is that learning is not necessarily acquainted with wisdom.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But the fundamental point is there, so many experts, now we're talking about experts in the development industry, if you like. They come along and they accuse me and, people who are doing this sort of work, you're first of all pretending that parents are better served, but you are undermining the public system by allowing the majority of parents in urban areas to go into these schools. And I would say to any one of these experts, you look a parent in the eye, a poor parent who's nothing, very little, who's got one chance for their little Johnny or little Susan to go to school, and you tell them you can't go to the private school, then you're making the wrong choice, and actually you've got to go to this school which you've already rejected. You've rejected that government school, that public school. You're going over here because you realise it's better for you, and all the evidence shows it's better. So it's an extraordinary revolution, but ties into what we're saying about parents knowing best, parents wanting accountability. Why are these schools better? Because they're accountable to the parents. The schools know, they run on tight budgets. I've run a few of these schools. I know how tight their budgets are. That if 2 or 3 parents take their children out, the school's non-viable as a business. So instead of waiting for those parents to take their children out, you make sure that the parents are satisfied with what you're delivering, high quality, typically academic education, knowledge-based education, and you make sure that's provided so that you don't lose your business, you don't go out of business.
So what motivates the people who set these schools up? Is it profit? Is it philanthropy? Is it compassion? Is it a mixture of all three? Or do you get some who do it for profit, some who do it out of compassion? What drives them?
So it's a mixture of all those, but typically, so here's the figures from the slums of Monrovia in Liberia. 61% are what you might call for-profit schools. Actually, in fact, this is not typical. This is just figures from Liberia. 61% for-profit, and the other 39% a mixture of church, community philanthropy, and mosque. Okay, and why it's not typical is typically that 60% figure is slightly higher in other places. There are fewer church, mosque, or whatever schools, but they're for profit. But let's distinguish. Be careful of that term. What it means is, if I'm an entrepreneur in a poor area, I can set up a school, and I will be able to provide for my family. I can extract a surplus to provide for my family. So it's not profiteering, and they're not making massive profits, giving it to shareholders. They're able to make a living out of this. So that's very important to stress. And what sort of people do it? I see 3 different groups. So often you have a mum who will, she will be quite more educated herself, will see the value of school. And so she starts a little kindergarten she's got 3 kids herself. She tells the neighbour, bring your kids in. She's got a dozen kids, starts a kindergarten. And then when the kids are ready to go to grade 1, the other mums or dads say, they're happy with you. I'm sure grade 1 isn't that different from kindergarten or reception, whatever you want to call it. Why don't they stay with you? And so a school is grown from the bottom up, as it were. Another typical way a school might start is from the top down, where the kids are getting ready for the national exams, and they're in a cramming class. They're in a sort of class where they get primed for the exams, and the kids will tell the teacher, well, look, we're learning more from you than we are at school. Why don't we come with you full time? And so a school has grown from the top down. But there are people now who see, schools are a successful way to create a small business that I can run, provide for my family. So there are people now just come in because they see it as a possible option in poor areas.